Hello. Can we start that again? Hello, this is the Florida Aviation Network. I'm your host, Walt Schammel. We're broadcasting live and in the clear for the 40th anniversary of Sun and Fun right here at the Florida Aviation Museum in Lakeland, Florida. Our guest today is Dr. William T. Busch, an aviation medical examiner. And with us also is Michelle Cassidy, our co-host. Welcome to our program.
Okay.
Dr. Cassidy, I understand that you are AVDOC 51, specifically with Stallion 51.
Dr. Busch, thanks. It's AVDOC 51 is the name of the medical clinic that we have in the Kissimmee Gateway Airport area. That's the name of our clinic, AVDOC 51.
And you're open to the public, or do you just work with pilots there at Stallion 51?
We're open to the public. We do FAA aviation medical exams, medical certification exams. We have a wellness program for pilots. We do some preventative medicine there, and we do ophthalmology, eye type work, but no surgery. We just do clinical ophthalmology there. It's open to the public, and Monday through Friday, pretty much about 9 to 5.
Okay. Are you a senior AME?
I am a senior AME, yes. And what that means is if you're a senior AME, you can grant all classes of medical certificates to pilots. You can grant the class 1, 2, or 3. If you're not a senior AME, you can only grant the class 2 or class 3, not the class 1.
So you can do all of them?
Correct.
And I notice your specialty is vision.
Yes, my board certification and specialty is ophthalmology and aviation medicine.
Specifically, how do you work vision into your aviation discussions?
You mean into my clinical discussions
Yes.
and clinical work? Well, if you look at aviation and you look at the aviators and you look at the senses, it's pretty easy to realize that vision is the primary sense for flying an aircraft. You can sort of do without the others and still control an aircraft, but you really need to have vision. In fact, you really need to have the best possible vision that you as an individual are capable of. So that's one of the reasons why I went into ophthalmology, and it's another reason why we do a pretty extensive eye exam on the medical certificate exams we do in my clinic, as opposed to what others may do that may have a primary specialty in family practice or internal medicine. When you come and get a flight physical as a pilot to my clinic, you get a full eye exam pretty much.
What would you say are the requirements for them to meet the pilots?
Vision requirements?
Yes, vision.
It depends on the class, whether it's class 1, 2, or 3. You see, class 1 is basically for airline pilots. And if they're over 40, they have to have an exam every 6 months. So the airline pilots are looked at real closely, and they have to have perfect vision, either with or without glasses. Perfect, let's say, is 20/20, okay? Class 2 aviators are commercial pilots. They are also paid to fly aircraft on the commercial level. Their vision requirements are pretty much the same as class 1. Class 3 aviators are basically pilots that are not paid for their services. They fly their own airplanes. No matter what the airplane is, they are not flying as a commercial pilot for hire or pilot for a fee basis. You follow me? Those aviation standards are a little bit more relaxed, and they're more aligned with driving a car. So you can have, say, 20/30 vision at distance and be a class 3 aviator, but not a class 2 or a class 1. However, in my opinion, if you come for a class 3, we still give you a full eye exam and tune you up to give you the best possible vision, because there's no reason to fly an airplane unless you can see to your best ability. Fair enough?
How would you come across doing those solutions, like fixing eyes? And would you give glasses, contacts?
Well,
surgeries?
I would do just about what any other eye clinic would do. I mean, we can do refractions and glasses, contacts. Like I said, we don't do any surgery there, so if we see a surgical problem, we refer to one of my friends who does that sort of thing, remove a cataract or do a laser surgery to the eye to improve the vision if the pilot so desires. Pretty much about whatever anybody else does.
A lot of pilots, or I should say a lot of people, think that a pilot has to have 20/20 vision to be a pilot. And
Well,
that's not true, is it?
Well, I mean, it's nice if they do. It's better if they do. And some pilots have 20/15 vision, which is better than 20/20. I've even seen a few guys with like 20/12. But no, as a Class 3 pilot, you don't have to have 20/20 vision. You can have 20/30, for instance. The next thing that people don't know is there's pilots out there with one eye, or useful vision in only one eye. Well, how can that be? Well, they were born that way, they had a disease, they had an injury. As soon as a pilot has a medical problem that results in him losing the vision in his eye, there's a waiver process or a special issuance process involving the FAA where he has to go through a waiting period and a adjustment period, a reorganization, refocusing, not focusing, but he gets himself accustomed to only having vision in one eye, and then he can apply for a medical certificate, and he goes through a few special tests and gets what's called a statement of demonstrated ability. So there are pilots out there that only have one eye. And the most famous one was Wiley Post, of course. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard a few things about
He
it.
flew around the world back in the, early days of aviation, and he only had one eye.
Yeah.
So you can basically let people accomplish their dreams even though they have so few obstacles that they have to face.
Absolutely. And I would say that my FAA doctor friends and colleagues, there's a whole set of rules that have evolved since the beginning of aviation as far as physical and mental capabilities of an aviator for whatever class he's going to be in. And they interpret those rules and they apply them, but they're also willing to work with the pilot. And if the pilot can demonstrate his abilities, then they will grant him a special issuance if required.
That's pretty good. Like, if they're strong enough to do what they love, they can do it.
Absolutely.
Well, people probably wonder, how in the world did a doctor with your experiences and so forth become a pilot?
Well, actually, I became a pilot before I became a doctor. I had gone to college in the Midwest and was a biology science major, but I hadn't really no interest in going to medical school at that time, but I did have an interest in doing something, so I joined the Navy and became a jet pilot in the Navy, flying off aircraft carriers. And after a number of years of doing that, I heard about a Navy program where they will send you to medical school if you get accepted to it. So I applied and got accepted, and then they sent me to medical school. And then when I came back, I became a flight surgeon, doctor, and then also picked up my piloting credentials again. So I became what's called a dual designated pilot physician in the Navy. Pretty uncommon. They only picked like two or three guys in the whole Navy in the decade of the 80s to do it. So I was fortunate to be one of those. And so since then, I've continued to fly and do the aviation medicine thing. And now I'm been doing that for many years.
I noticed on your shirt you've got the Crazy Horse 51 there. Do you fly that airplane also?
I have flown it, but I'm not one of the, quote, pilots that gives the training there. I mostly run the medical clinic and operate that. And I provide aviation physiology training, and I'm an instructor for the Unusual Attitude program we have there, where we teach commercial pilots about upset training and spatial disorientation, so we have a program for that. And the thing I want to throw in your question a little bit, though, is this clinic that I have there, AVDOC 51, is basically a company under the big company of Stallion 51, which is a pretty big company in a 3-building complex at the airport at Kissimmee Gateway. And we have several other corporations underneath the umbrella of Stallion 51, and mine is one of them.
So, what other types of planes have you flown in your lifetime?
Well, I've been flying now since the 70s, and it's now the 2000s and somethings, right? So I've flown many planes. I don't know how many.
Basically all of them.
Dozens of different airplanes. I flew most of the Navy planes that were on active duty during the time I was on active duty. I was checked out in the A4, T2 training planes, and then the S3 Viking, A7. Got some time in that, the F-18, but then I sort of got a lot of sort of guest flights, onesies and twosies in the various planes. In the civilian world, I fly the bug smashers around, stuff like that. I like Stearman, Texans.
Well, that sounds like you've got quite a broad background. You certainly seem to enjoy both the medical side as well as the aviation side, and you've got the best of both worlds.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think so. I have been a guy that has followed my heart and soul my whole life. I try to do what makes me feel good, and I try to contribute to things that I think are important and fun and interesting. So that's what I'm doing now.
Well, Dr. Busch, we really appreciate you joining us and helping us celebrate the 40th anniversary of Sun and Fun.
Very good, thank you. It was nice seeing you again.
It was nice seeing you too.
And
oh, we're not done?
and I guess for the three of us, we need to talk a little bit more about what's going on here at Sun and Fun. You were out there on the flight line.
Oh, I have been, yes. It's quite fun. There's a lot of sort of planes out there, much to see, much to do.
I believe you were out there standing in front of that PC-12. That's
Yeah.
an interesting single-engine airplane, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's actually this experimental plane that's pretty interesting. It comes out forward and it comes out back in, and it can take off basically from its position.
Do you have your pilot license yet?
I want to, but seeing right now as I've been focusing on school, I'm trying to keep my education going while I'm doing it.
That's a good thing. Education is very important. It's an investment in yourself that no one can ever take from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How long have you been here anyways? Like been at Sun and Fun and doing all of this?
Well, I mean, I've been coming every year for many years. I used to fly in when I was a younger guy. Now, since I live close, I drive in. I come every year. I mean, I'm 30 years, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
Been coming a long time. So, this is good.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of changes occur here in Sun and Fun.
I have.
And this year, of course, we've got the Blue Angels. Have you worked with them at all?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked directly. I've not been stationed with them, but I did get to fly with them one year, which was pretty fun. Awesome aviators, but the best. I can't say anything other than the best. And you're an airline pilot, retired, is that what I understand?
Former.
Former airline pilot. How many different types of aircraft have you flown?
I never added them up.
Is it fixed wing only, or do you do rotary wing?
I do rotor, fixed wing, hot air balloons, gliders, multi-engine jets.
Excellent.
I instruct in all of them, and I just have fun. I just do it for fun right now. I used to do it for a job.
So you carry an ATP and a CFI?
Yes.
Excellent. That would be something to aspire to.
Yeah.
But a lot of my friends put me to shame when they always say, "How many hours have you got?" And I said, "I've got about 17,000 hours," and they've got 50,000. 17 isn't very much, but I talked to some of the new pilots coming through the system and said, "What have you got?" "I'm a private pilot I've just got 100 hours." And I said, "That's a lot of time."
Well, there was a day when you had 100 hours.
Absolutely. And I got my time the same way he is, 1 hour at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Everything starts at zero. Like you always have to start somewhere.
How much flight time do you have?
I really haven't had any yet. Like I said, I've been focusing on school.
And you live here in Lakeland with all these airplanes.
I know. I'm still ashamed.
You know all these pilots out here.
I know. It's making me feel sad now.
No, don't feel too sad. I should hook you up with the president of Sun and Fun.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be glad to take you for a ride, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've been actually on a few rides before, and those were pretty cool. Like just seeing everything. It gives you a new perspective about the world, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me say a couple things since we have more time, right?
Sure, you've got time. Go ahead.
I want to talk about pilots and what they can do to stay in the cockpit as long as possible. You see, here's the situation. If you're a pilot, you're not an average citizen, you're not an average person. You are in a career, if you're a professional pilot, you're in a career where you are scrutinized a little closer as far as your physical and mental capabilities, and you're routinely scrutinized. If you're a real estate agent, nobody bugs you. If you work in construction, nobody bugs you. If you're a banker, or lawyer, or whatever. But if you're a professional aviator, you have these yearly milestones, even semi-annual milestones, where you have to go get a physical exam. And when you're going to your AME, aviation medical doctor, flight surgeon, he's not just examining you physically, he's also examining how you think. If you can't remember your phone number when you go to the AME, that's not a good thing. You want that guy flying your airplane, especially your airliner. The answer is no, right? So the point is, if you're a professional pilot, which I hope that you are someday, and you have been, you need to take care of yourself because you want to be able to stay in the cockpit as long as you can. And when you leave your flying career, you do it because you want to, not because somebody tells you you have to because you have a medical problem. Fair enough?
Yeah, that sounds fair. But when you were talking about how you prepare them mentally, how do you run those tests?
I can't say I prepare them mentally. I'm just saying that, things happen in a person's life, and if they're easily distracted, that's just part of the whole exam. It's not just whether they're breathing and their heart's beating. You want to assess their mental capabilities, whether they're oriented and stuff like that. It's part of a whole general exam. The point I'm trying to make is the pilots need to start young by keeping themselves in decent shape. The military already has it figured out. They give you physical fitness tests. They discourage, overweight people. The military has it figured out. But in the civilian world, there's nobody out there to school the professional pilots. So the professional pilots, if they want to stay making a living in the cockpit till they're 60 plus years old or even 70 plus years old, don't become obese, don't smoke, eat a balanced diet, get a reasonable amount of exercise, don't use alcohol to excess or drugs, take care of yourself. It's not about when you're 27, it's about when you're 67. Leading an unhealthy lifestyle will make you get gigged out of the cockpit quicker. You agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
But it's good to have a healthy lifestyle just in general.
True. But like I said again, the pilots are scrutinized every year. An airline pilot that flies for a major carrier has to come and see a guy like me twice a year, every 6 months. So over the course of a lifetime, that's a lot of doctor visits. Do you agree?
Yeah.
In fact, it gets to be such a doctor visit, I can tell you who has a mole where, because I see him every 6 months for years. So.
You were talking about vision earlier, and I have a few friends in the airline industry. I always get a kick out of it because when you look at a pilot wearing glasses and you see they've got reading glasses at the top and reading glasses at the bottom, they're either a pilot that has to read all those little tiny overhead flags on the circuit breakers, or they're a carpenter.
Well, that could be true, but I'm going to say those glasses with the near vision ad on the top and the bottom, that's a little unusual. I prescribed those a few times for FEs, flight engineers, and some military guys. They do exist, but that's a good point. When you get older, into your 40s, your eyes lose the ability to adapt from looking at infinity, which is distance, and bringing the reading up here. You see, your eyeballs are only 16 years old right now, right? Yeah. So can you read that out there? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Could you read it if it was right here? The answer is yes, because you're 16 and not 56. When you get older, your eyes lose the ability to move in and out. So that's why guys like Walt and I have a little part on the bottom of our glasses called a ad, or a bifocal, where we can see near vision, and near the top part we see the distance vision. That's what he's talking about. In some wacky professions like carpentry, I don't know what else, but some piloting things, they put a reading thing on the top so the pilot looks up and can see the circuit breakers.
Well, you see, for me, I wear glasses, so sometimes, glasses and contacts, so sometimes for me I kind of worry about what's going to happen in my future as for becoming an aviator, doing stuff around that.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about it now because it's the year 2014 and not the year 1964.
True.
So the military has relaxed their standards because they've de-emphasized perfect vision. Back in the 70s, you had to have 20/15 vision to become a naval aviator. That's better than 20/20.
Yeah.
They called it 20/20, but the fact is you had to get every letter on the good light chart, which was 10, in each eye perfectly right. If you missed one letter, you failed. So that translates actually better than 20/20 vision. Otherwise, you would not be a naval aviator. Nowadays, you can have 20/40 vision. You can have had laser surgery of your eyes to fix it. And that's now. So when you go to Navy flight school here in 6 or 7 years, unless you got some really hideous vision, which I'm sure you don't, you
No.
should be okay.
Yeah.
Can you walk around your house without glasses and not bump into the wall?
Yeah, and I can see shapes and everything like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, my dad used to wear glasses when he was little, and he had horrible vision. And when he was around 20, he got laser eye surgery. But now that's fading, so I'm just kind of curious about when they
When
get
he
it
was
early.
20, how old is
Yeah.
he now?
He's 60s, around in his 60s.
Well, he didn't get laser eye surgery 40 years ago.
Yeah, not laser. Well, like cutting. Like
He
they
might
cut
have
his
gotten
eye open.
RK, radial keratotomy.
He told me he got laser eye surgery. I don't know.
Close enough.
Are all laser corrections acceptable to the FAA?
Pretty much the common ones. I mean, some wacky thing that they are doing experimentally, maybe not, but the LASIK and the PRK are acceptable to the FAA, yes.
Okay. Radial keratotomy, is that acceptable?
Yeah, but nobody does that anymore. That's old technology.
old stuff.
That's from the 80s, yeah. But before we run out of time, I want to add another thing. Can I do that?
Sure.
When a pilot comes to get the medical certificates, sometimes they have medical problems that come up. They had a stent put in their heart, or they had a heart attack, or they got in a car wreck and needed a surgery, or they had something happen to them, or they got a diagnosis of something. Sometimes when you get a diagnosis of something, it's not physically qualifying for the FAA. In other words, you get grounded. If you have a heart attack or you have a heart bypass, for instance, you can't fly as a pilot until you get a special permit from the FAA to fly, and it's called a special issuance, an authorization for special issuance for your medical certificate. This is above and beyond the regular medical certificate you can give to a healthy guy with no diagnosis or no diseases. This is after you get a disease, you have to apply to the FAA based on that disease protocol to get a special issuance. You guys with me?
Yes.
It's a waiver or an exception to policy. So once you get that, then you're back good to go to flying again. And the FAA doctors are pretty good at doing that. About 90+% of the time when we apply for an authorization for special issuance, it is granted. There's only a few conditions that are really tough to get a waiver for.
Can you
Can you name some of those conditions?
That are easy or tough?
The tough ones.
The tough ones are things like psychiatric diseases, depressions,
Bipolar disorder.
Most of the psychiatric stuff is tough because you don't want wacky guys flying airplanes. I hate to put it so bluntly, but that's the big picture. You got it? And then you've got epilepsy, of course, and there's drug addictions, alcoholism, all those are tough. Easy stuff is high blood pressure, sore toe, gout. You know,
So
those.
the low stuff are just something that can be fixed quickly.
Right. Easy stuff.
Okay.
The idea is the FAA medical part is charged with keeping the nation's airspace safe
Yeah.
with regards to the medical conditions and physical conditions of the pilots. Okay, another part of the FAA is the ones that checks the airplanes. Annuals, condition inspections on the airplanes. Another part of the FAA does this and that and this. I'm talking about the medical part of the FAA. Got it?
Yeah.
So we got people that check the health of the airplane, and we got people that check the health of the pilot.
Absolutely.
And
the
that's why we
pilots
have a
should
safe system.
The pilots should look at that about the same way. You maintain your airplane, you maintain yourself. They're both healthy, you go flying.
It's basically saying that you and your plane are one person.
You could say that.
Well, I guess we finally reached that point, Dr. Busch, that we're going to have to close this one out. We look forward to seeing you on another one.
It was fun, and I hope you invite me back next year.
You can
Sure
bet we
will.
will.
Very good.
And thank you for joining us at the Florida Aviation Network. I'm Walt Schrammel, your host, and I'll see you the next time.